Hey guys, and welcome to my first voiceover video. This video is going to be a little bit different as I will explain my decision making and the template and the heroes as well as the goals of the game while playing. So we are starting out the game with Schism, Dhüvri against Necro. These are like the two best factions in the game right now, but we are on the best hero of the Schism faction on Sprint. On Sprint, the most important part is to get boxes, level up while getting the boxes, and to not leave the road early. If you level up early, the most important skill to take is logistics. If you get logistics, you have more movement points, therefore you're getting the boxes faster. In this game, the second skill that I'm getting is pretty bad. So I either have the opportunity to go for economy, luck, or resistance. And in this case, all of these skills are bad. Economy is not important for Sprint because we're not building out. Resistance is only important in the ultra late game. And luck is kind of important. So as you can see, I'm taking the road and we find the first box. In order to farm the first boxes the easiest, it is the best to upgrade your tier 1 units in order for you to have ranged units. And your cultists with the long reach usually make it that your first early fights are relatively easy. And if you have a ranged unit guarding a box, you can use the spell Primordial to change the guard of the box in order to not take any losses in the early game. This template is all about getting good fights without too many losses. If you have a bad map and you have access to the restart button, use that restart button. In this case, I wanted to play out the map first in order to see which skills I would unlock, but my opponent reset instead. So starting with the next game, again I'm picking Advanced Abyssal Communion. And if you're paying attention to what I'm picking the options to go for ultra late game with more units for communion level. And in this case, you can see I had halflings guarding one of my boxes and I used my primordial spell in order to change the guard, and I just got a different guard of the upgraded race, which is so much easier to fight compared to the halflings. Even though these guards are relatively easy, they are pretty far away from the road, so you have to decide whether it's fine for you to keep that map or whether you should reset that map, because all these movement points are precious, and if you leave the road you will lose movement points, right? You're moving more efficiently on roads. So for the first biome is relatively easy. You have 2 boxes in total in your first biome. Both of them are your tier 1 boxes. So with Schism you can pick Shoffs. For Necro that would be skeletons or skeleton archers. And yeah, I tried to shoot with my Shoffs, wasn't quite able to kill that Wraith guard, but I'm able to kill the 16 stack, and first fight was relatively clean, only losing some units. It's very important to not lose your tier 1 units if you can. And I'm thinking about picking the unupgraded version to go back to my town to upgrade them, but since I would lose movement points in order to go back, I didn't opt for that, and you shouldn't as well. So if you have the boxes, just go for the upgraded version. For the Shoffs with Schism, same goes for Necro, right? If you're playing Necropolis, just go for the skeleton archers. I think there's only one exception to that rule. I would always go for unupgraded Trogs for dungeon, and I would go for unupgraded shooters for Grove. I think these are the only 2 units that I would pick that are unupgraded. For the other factions I would take the upgraded version instead. So as we're clearing the first box, I want to talk about some goals that we want to get. So right now we have 1 town, right? In the next biome there will be no town for us to take, but in the biome afterwards there's going to be another town. So our goal is to get 2 additional towns in the first week. How can we do that? We have to stay on road for as long as possible. And we want to get the logistics skill. There are some skills that are just so much better than others. In this case, like, I can put maybe a skill tier list on the screen. Logistics is the best. Then there goes offense, defense, thaumaturgy because of double casting, and battle magic. If you have these, that's like a very, very good core. Then you have some other very useful skills. Sorcery is super useful because it'll give you better spell casting and it will increase all of your spell casting levels by 1 if you have full sorcery. Another very useful skill to have is magic resistance or battlecraft. So if you have all of these skills, you have like the perfect skill tree. Nightshade magic is great, some schools of magic are great, but Nightshade is pretty much the best. Primal is useful too, but the others are not as important. Arcane can be good, but it usually isn't. So after each biome, there's a final guard guarding the entrance towards the next biome, which is on road. And that guard is particularly strong. It shouldn't be a problem though if you farmed all of the boxes in the other biome prior. So, first biome cleared. We got all of the boxes in the first biome. We didn't get logistics, but with Dhüvri, our most important aspect is to survive up until late game, because that hero has a very nasty ability, which gives us more units in the late game the more units we have. And what is very interesting here is I opted to reset because of two things. I didn't roll into logistics, my boxes weren't really on road, and I lost a bunch of movement points because of that. So that's why I opted to reload that. For the next map, I have a box in the back once again, which is not ideal, but the guards for these boxes are pretty nice. Troglodytes on the one behind me, skeletons on the one in front. As always, I'm picking advanced communion level first and foremost, and you should always go for the first 2 boxes in your biome. And once you cleared these, you can go ahead and move towards the road. If you pick up treasure chests, always go for experience. Gold is not as important, we want to get as strong as possible. And if you find units to fight on your road, you can opt to do that in order to gain experience. Units that you're fighting you shouldn't use any units while fighting these though. So it's kind of like a trade-off. You're getting experience for investing movement points, but you shouldn't really lose more units when doing so. So in this case, I only lost 1 cultist. I'm debating whether it's a good idea to go for the Mereas altar, and I think it's a good idea. Not necessarily for the gold, but for the experience instead. The gold certainly doesn't hurt, but the experience is what makes it worthwhile. So how to do a Mereas altar? You have to stack your units so that it doesn't reach the strongest stacks. You have to clump in your strongest stacks like I'm doing right now. And then the serpent can only attack a 1 stack, and then the other stacks should have an easy time finishing the serpent off. And losing 1 cultist in order to gain 1250 XP is worthwhile. So after getting 2 of these boxes, again I'm taking the road. Parasites are a very easy guard, especially the unupgraded ones. I'm debating whether it's worth it to go for the riders in the back, but I think it isn't, and then you have to take the road instead. Now we entered the second biome, and we really need at least 1 box in the second biome. What could happen here is that you don't really find your boxes naturally on road, but you will get a little dirt road randomly in this biome. The dirt road always leads to at least one box. So that's what we do. Take the dirt road, we fight against the troglodytes, we will level for the Rashovs, either go for unfrozen strength or go for the initiative bonus. Both are very useful. And then pick up the next tiers of the boxes. Same as in the first biome, always pick up the unupgraded version. It's more HP and more attack in total. And then, if you don't see the second box in the biome, don't start looking for this box randomly, just break on the road instead. If the break on the road is ranged, again, it's very useful to just re-roll the guard with your primordial. So, after getting rid of the second guard, we enter the third biome, and the third biome has our town somewhere. And we want to pick up that town ASAP. We can replenish some of our creatures there, and yeah, then we can go towards the next biome. For the skill choice, I'm either getting Battlecraft or Thaumaturgy. I'm going for Thaumaturgy right now because I really want to get logistics, and the chances of me actually unlocking logistics are higher when I have less skills to choose from. So if I picked Battlecraft, I would get like a level up on Battlecraft and Thaumaturgy and the third skill, which would highly reduce the possibility of getting the Thaumaturgy spell. So I'm seeing ranged units blocking the box. I'm re-rolling that immediately. And sadly, it's golems and another ranged units guarding that box instead. So the guard for this town, like some guards for your towns are like super random, super strong. In this case, I was really lucky because Hellhounds are a very easy guard. And once you clear that town, you can pick up more units, tier 1 and tier 2 units, and you can go into Second Wind. I haven't talked about building out because building out is not really as important on sprint. You basically just go for astrology points in all of your towns early on, and once you have Second Wind twice, you just go for gold, and that's it. And it's not even that worth it to build out in your other towns because you lack the gold to hire all the units on this template anyway. What is very important though is that you unlock Second Wind either on day 4 or day 5. In your second town in order to get more movement points. What does Second Wind do? It's a neutral spell that gives you 40 more movement points, I think, or 60, whether it's upgraded or not. That makes a difference. And yeah, it basically makes it so that we generate more tempo, right? Like I said, it's all about getting tempo. Yeah, I'm checking the witch hut, by the way. Diplomacy is not what I want to take. And even though it is a ranged guard, I have to go for this box immediately because it's all about getting, again, tempo. So, third biome, third kind of boxes. In this case, they would have third tier units in there. In later biomes, it's sometimes tricky to guess whether it's going to be a tier 3 or tier 5 unit, depending on the guard. But in the very first 4 biomes, it's always going to be tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 units. So right now I just have to get rid of the shooters in this fight. Do not underestimate golems, especially not awakened golems. So I'm sacking my 1 stacks in order for the golems to stay in front. And the cultists will go ham on the golems as well. So for the next level up, I'm getting Archmage on Thaumaturgy. I'm picking up 32 riders, which is amazing. And then I have to kind of go to the next box, or at least go to the road. And since we have Second Wind unlocked, we can actually go for that. Right now I'm debating whether it's worth it to go for the box because that box is very far away But you shouldn't really like skip too many boxes early on, because if you're skipping the boxes early on, the fights later on are going to be so much harder. What is important though is you actually being able to press second wind. So you always have to have enough mana go for the second wind in order to get more movement points. Always upgrade that as soon as you can, then farm the boxes, and then you want to enter the fourth biome, which is, I think, one of the most important biomes. Oh, by the way, I just picked up logistics, as I just said, most important skill to pick up on this template. Because more tempo means more units, faster means stronger hero, etc, etc. So, leaving the road for 2 stats. Like I said, I wouldn't recommend leaving the road too many times, but yeah. If it's just one step, you can sometimes go for that. So, after killing some doggies and grave robbers, we are entering the fourth biome, and we see a box right away. For the fourth biome, it's very important to not forcibly look for the second box. If it appears, it's great. If you don't see it even after taking some roads, don't start looking for it. It's not really worth it. So, box is right on road. We're grabbing that. As this is the fourth biome, it's a tier 4 units that we're grabbing. And getting some dragons is really nice. Always pick the unupgraded version, because we're going to upgrade all of these units in the end anyway. And then there usually is a magic well on the road as well, which we can use to replenish mana after pressing second wind. So after getting the mana, I'm very fortunate that I see the second dragon box on road as well, with the scorpions. And scorpions are actually not a bad guard to fight. And we're killing the scorpions easily with the help of the communion level as well. And this is the strength of Schism, right? Even though we would lose units, because we have more units in our stack due to our communion level being active, we actually don't lose that many units. So you are allowed to like sacrifice 1 or 2 units, because the communion level actually raised the units to a higher level. In this case, I lost a dragon, despite the communion level, because scorpions actually hit more than I thought they would. But we are getting expert logistics, we have expert offense, expert thaumaturgy, we just need defense and battle magic, and we are basically set for our skill tree. And the skill tree is one of the most important aspects in the game. If your skill tree sucks, you can lose with like double the amount of army than your opponent, due to just maybe having 1 less cast in the battle, or your units basically not dealing any damage. So be careful to always select a good skill tree. For the laws with Schism, it's pretty simple. You just want to strengthen all of your units, and you want to put +1 level into optical lure, and you want to put +1 level in arcane, but we'll come back to that later in the later fights. So right now we're fighting the guards towards the 5th region, which are going to be more golems. I'm a certified golem hater in this game. And we are able to pull that fight off without any losses whatsoever. We're only losing 2 rush-offs. And then after entering the 5th biome, we see the first concubus box instantly. And it's guarded by liches. You don't really want to fight liches. There are worse guards, don't get me wrong, but liches are pretty bad. But yeah, we're getting upgraded arbitrators instead. Yeah, there are not that many worse guards. This is certainly one of them. And yeah, we have to take the fight anyway. I'm just debating whether I'm going to wait one more turn with the Primordial, because this is not an easy guard. I'm going for the Primordial, and they turn into billions of Lightbringers. And this is one of the most important moments in this map. Should I take this fight or not? And the answer is, I should actually take that fight. However, I opted not to, and I went for monkeys instead, because I was scared of losing too many units in that fight to the Lightbringers or Light Reavers. I'm not sure, I think that was a mistake, because the Light Reavers guarded a Concubus box, but I think I would have had way too many losses. But yeah, in hindsight, I would have definitely went for the first fight with the Arbitrators and the mixed squad instead. So, we are going for more boxes, as always. This one is a relatively hard one, with worms guarding not only the box but an artifact on top of that. I have a weird bug moving like through the artifact, but yeah, then I'm taking the third town in the first week, and that was the most important aspect of this game, because if I take the first town in the first week, I'm getting double the amount of units, because there's going to be one additional week of unit growth that I can pick up. So, we're clearing the outpost, we are building out our towns for a little bit, and then it's time to go for the next boxes. And an interesting thing about the 5th biome, there are boxes that are not tier 5 in this biome. You could pick up some tier 3 boxes instead. However, this is not a big deal, because if you have like a big tier 3 stack, that's great as well. So right now I have 104 Agashov Riders, which is a huge stack to clear stuff with. And we're going for the next big fight, which is going to be Concubus box without any losses whatsoever. And then after getting the Concubus box, it is time to return on road and move towards the next region. The growth of the units in the town that we just captured is great for the second fight, not necessarily for the first fight, because we don't want to like go back to the town, pick up the creatures and then return to road, but we want to stay on road instead. And if you have some stuff that is very nearby to clear on road, just go for that. Getting advanced battle magic is great for our first fight, meaning that the longer the fight goes on, the stronger our casting is going to be. And we have an insane stack of tier 3 units with 242 Agashov Riders with the communal level, which will make clearing for us so much easier. So after getting rid of the guard towards the 6th zone, we're finally reaching the end game, because in the 6th zone there are going to be different tier 3, tier 5 and tier 6 boxes. And the tier 6 boxes is where the juice is at, because if we get some arbitrators in the first fight, it's going to be very hard for the enemy to overcome that. Arbitrators are one of the best tier 6 units. They are dealing insane amounts of damage and they are ranged. And because of the communal level, we would even have more of them. So right now, we have so many units that we can actually go for the harder fights, fighting some dragons, because they're guarding a very useful ring, daylight magic, in order to gain more movement speed with speed of light, and then finally getting access to another box on road just before we go into the first fight. So usually if you're going into the first fight, you can have more concubi, you could even have more tier 1s, tier 2s, but the most important aspect of Sprint Dhüvri Schism is to have great tempo. And in order to get great tempo, you have to reach the last zone as fast as possible. That's how you would win games. Winning the first fight would just be a bonus. So, we're heading into our first fight. Our community level has decreased because there's a new day. And we are fighting 68 liches and a bunch of dread knights. So our opponent has a pretty decent army. He already found 2 tier 5 boxes, but he has worse stats, and that's why we can just run him down later on. It's very important to get rid of his ghosts, because that's how he can snowball, and then our Argoshof riders are just cleaning up house, and there's really nothing he could do against over 200 tier 3s. So like I said, we're farming more boxes on road. Trying to not take too many losses. We find another concubus box. And then we head towards the road as well. You will notice that I didn't go for all of these boxes in this biome, because I can always pick up these boxes later. The juiciest boxes, they are in the last zone. So right now I'm just focusing on grabbing the most quality artifacts and the creature banks, and then I can always go for the other boxes afterwards. Since there are 3 creature banks on top of each other right now, I'm going for all of these at the moment. And then I have the decision to go either sorcery or resistance. I really like resistance in late game, so I opted to go for resistance instead. And then I went for another box on road. Haven't found an arbitrator box yet. However, I already have the law that I always start with maximum communion level, which is amazing, because right now it's literally almost impossible for me to lose units with that law. And for the final fight, all of my units are starting with maximum communion level as well. Because 2 boxes are nearby and they're both on roads, I opted to go for both of these boxes in the 6th biome. Also because I haven't found arbitrators, and it's a good thing because it was my first arbitrator box in the pocket there. And then after picking up both of these arbitrator boxes back to back, it's time to break into the last zone. If the last zone is dragons or angels, I would highly recommend just changing that, because basically all of these other breaks are easier. And then after entering the final zone, head towards your main town immediately. If you are like me and you're just like really strong enough to actually go for a dragon taupe, you can always go for a taupe on the way. In this case, it was a maxi taupe, though sometimes you're taking some losses in the maxi taupe. It's still worth it, because a taupe gives you not only gold, but a bunch of artifacts. And your last zone always has 2 Dragon Utopias. You see all these artifacts lying around? Yes, these are important. But most importantly, you have to go for the 2 Dragon Utopias, because Dragon Utopias will provide you with a bunch of artifacts right from the get-go. There are also some other structures that are always in the last zone. For example, a structure which you could use to reset all of your skills. So if you don't really like your skill tree, if you haven't hit battle magic, offense, defense, for example, just reset your skills in that building. And there's also a town portal that you could use to go to the other towns. But at this point, you should have so many astrology points that you can switch between your towns anyway. So, after getting the last town, you can finally upgrade your units. You can get more units. This last final town has everything built out. It has an artifact merchant if you're playing Schism. I think it has an artifact merchant anyway, regardless of the faction that you're playing, but I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, it has also the Grail. So yeah, fun fact. I didn't know that. If you're playing Dungeon, the Grail makes it so that you see the entire map, and the entire map is revealed. So if you're playing a Dungeon, or if you're playing against Dungeon, he will see what you're up to, because he will see your army setup. But yeah, we're getting all the laws. We hit the final town. Sometimes it's useful to let your weaker tiers, like tier 1s, tier 2, tier 3s in that town, and just clear stuff with your tier 5, 6 and 7 in order to not get any losses. In this case, I didn't really do that. I should do that more often, but in my opinion, you should go for that. So just take the creatures that you really need to clear with you, and that's it. So now that we entered the last region, it's time to farm the last region. And the highest priority for the last region are the creature boxes. Creature boxes mean army strength, and while farming the creature boxes, you will get more experience. If you have enough mana to rally your creatures, you can also just port around and take the creatures with you. And yeah, then if you're clearing, only take the creatures that you really need to clear with you. In this case, I took my biggest stacks with me, and with Schism, it's very easy to clear. You don't really have to do anything because most of the auto fights will not lose any units whatsoever anyway. So just destroy these and they will fall over and you don't really have to do anything most of the time. So after clearing some of these creatures, there are some artifacts that I'm looking for. Initiative is best for the final fight because whoever shoots first usually wins, and you have to make sure to have at least one or two soul collar rings, if you can have them, in order to reduce the levels of magical schools that your enemy has. For the laws, always pick up what you feel most comfortable with. Obviously, the laws that come at the end are the most valuable laws. The law for Schism that makes the enemy lose 1 speed and 1 initiative is pretty much vital for the final fight, and the law that makes him lose focus points is pretty useful as well. And then, after grabbing some of your units, you should go for your second Utopia, and after getting the Utopias, look for tomes. The Nightshade tome and the Daylight tome are the most important tomes that you can find, but even an Arcane tome or a Primal tome are very useful for the final fights. One thing I haven't talked about are artifact sets. One prominent artifact set that you can easily pick up is the Beelzebub set. If you can assemble a set somehow, that set is very useful. While assembling the Angelic Alliance is not only very hard, but also not that useful as well. If you're lacking the gold to hire the units, you can always sell your artifacts, but make sure to not oversell your artifacts and to upgrade some of them, because upgrading your artifacts gives you bonuses as well. So you have to have like a balance. You have to have a bunch of units and you have to have a bunch of upgraded artifacts as well. In some rare cases, you already farmed the last zone before the third week has even started. And in that case, it's sometimes even worth it to go back and to clear the regions that you've visited before. These circumstances are very rare though. So in this case, because I have Daylight magic, I equipped a Daylight tome and a Nightshade tome, as well as an upgraded Drums of War. And I basically have pretty much all of the important artifacts already. I'm just missing a bag. And yeah, always make sure to invest all of your law points. And in this game, I even opted to reset my skills because logistics is not that important for the final fight. And I thought I would get the final fight here. So I went for Battle Magic, Offense, Thaumaturgy, Nightshade and Sorcery. Hopefully getting Defense. I didn't find Defense. Went for Leadership instead. Leadership is pretty useful as well, but I'm really hoping to get either Defense or Battlecraft for the final skill. And no, I'm getting Logistics instead. So yeah, sometimes not lucky. So my skill tree basically has two skills that are not high priority, but like I said, Nightshade, Offense, Battle Magic, Thaumaturgy, all very good skills to have. So, after assembling all of our units, we're heading into the final fight with 118 arbitrators and 190 concubi. And as we have more initiative than him, we can just use that initiative to instantly nuke his liches. And that is why initiative is so important, especially in the final fight. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it's not really important to have lots of attack or defense as long as you have battle magic, because battle magic scales with spell power and knowledge, and if you have a billion spell power, your creatures will benefit from your spell power as well. And in the late game, Dhüvri Schism, if you're playing it like this, even when losing almost all of your tier 1s and tier 2s on the way, you'll win every single game. So again, to sum it up, the most important skills on Sprint are logistics, offense, defense, thaumaturgy, battle magic. Afterwards, there are some skills that are great. Sorcery is great, battlecraft is great, nightshade magic is okay, and magic resistance can be very useful against, especially against casting heroes as well. For low points, just pick whatever you want to increase your value of your units, and skip economy laws entirely. And after clearing the 2 Dragon Utopias and the rest in the last zone, sell some artifacts to hire all of your units. And disenchant the rest of your artifacts in order to upgrade your artifacts. And that is it. So as always, keep sprinting. Luck on this OP faction, on this OP hero, on the sprint template. Remember, always stay on road. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in multiplayer. Peace.